Hello, guys. So I will be reading you an excerpt from In Praise of Idleness by Bertrand Russell. I do not think the fact that these people are allowed to be idle is nearly so harmful as the fact that wage earners are expected to overwork or starve. So in this piece, he is talking about how people want to not work, they want to have time to sit and not have to worry about working to survive. And as soon as you bring up we shouldn't have to work, there's so much, oh, well, then what are people gonna do? Oh, well, then they're not gonna do anything productive. Oh, well, no, let's put them back to work because that's what they have to do. And what he just said is, I don't think that this is a harmful idea compared to the fact that people are working to the point of starvation. They are working through starvation. They are working through their pain, working through their bodies telling them to stop, not being able to rest. No, that is a lot worse than letting someone just have time to rest and work less. A lot less than they need to. If the ordinary wage earner worked 4 hours a day, there would be enough for everybody and no unemployment, assuming a certain moderate amount of sensible organization. This idea shocks the well-to-do because they are convinced that the poor would not know how to use so much leisure. In America, men often work long hours even when they are already well off. Such men, naturally, are indignant at the idea of leisure for wage earners except as the grim punishment of unemployment. So, to do nothing is your punishment. That's your punishment because you don't have a job. It's horrible to be somebody who's not working. In fact, they dislike leisure even for their sons. And I've heard of this where rich people will make their children get out and work because there's so much beauty in working. Oddly enough, while they wish their sons to work as hard as to have no time to be civilized, they do not mind their wives and daughters having no work at all. The snobbish admiration of uselessness, which in an aristocratic society extends to both sexes, is under a plutocracy confined to women. This, however, does not make it any more in agreement with common sense. So these same rich people, as he pointed out, they're going to have their sons work, but the women will sit and they will do nothing. And then we're going to have this big movement, right, to say women need to get jobs and be working too and fight for their right to work hard like men do. But really, why are we so obsessed with working? Why? So Bertrand Russell goes on to say the snobbish admiration of uselessness extends to both sexes, and it's under a plutocracy confined to women. So everyone admires, as a whole, everyone admires someone who does absolutely nothing. And that's why I love how he points out with college. Like, people love the idea of going to college mainly because you're doing nothing but reading books all day. That's really it. And people love the idea of having absolutely nothing better to do than to read a fucking book, because we live in a society where everybody has to work to survive. And if you look at the things that people enjoy doing, they enjoy sitting, watching TV, and listening to music. Why? Because they're so overworked in their life that the best thing they can do is lay down and do something passive, which can be listening to music in a dark room or sitting in a dark room watching TV while also laying down. Because this work culture is not good, guys, and we are so much more advanced. We don't need to do it anymore. So the next part, the wise use of leisure It must be conceded, is a product of civilization and education. A man who has worked long hours all his life will be bored if he becomes suddenly idle, but without a considerable amount of leisure, a man is cut off from many of the best things. There is no longer any reason why the bulk of the population should suffer this deprivation. Only a foolish asceticism, usually vicarious, makes us insist on work in excessive quantities now that they know the need no longer exists. What is asceticism? It is a word meaning you don't like indulgence, you don't like pleasure, you cannot partake in anything that makes you feel good. And yes, our culture is promoting that. And we do not need to work in the excessive quantities that we are working in. We do not. And people want to argue and say, oh, well, you have to work or else your mind is doing nothing and that's bad. But it's honestly quite worse when you cannot enjoy anything because you're working so much, and that's what we have people doing.